Hey everyone, this is Alex. Just a quick video to show you what I've been working on lately and explain how AI actually helped me to become a better engineer in general. So I first started with this idea of a plugin that can process through a big set of posts in WordPress and it can find redirect URLs that can be found, for example, created in Yoast plugin, and it can process all these redirect URLs, basically find all these redirect URLs in all the post content and basically remove them from the post content like safely, right? And I had this client who asked me, can I do this programmatically, because they have this big old website, old WordPress website with around 6,000 posts. So, it's very big amount of data. And they also have around 10,000 redirects on their website since they've been using Yoast for a long, long time. So I tried to do this at first, and I got my draft, right, of my first code from Claude, right? I use Claude for that, and then it worked, right? But it was extremely slow. So it was like 20 posts, maybe would just process it like for maybe, I don't know, 1 minute, and then sometimes it would crash or time out. So I thought that what if I try to recreate the same but as a plugin, right? But this time I try to improve it and make it more efficient. So what I did is that I drafted this quick plugin that can scan through all these Yoast redirects, and then it can scan through all your posts and then find all these links. Let me try to open my admin. And from the beginning, it was hard to implement all this logic since the logic here is pretty complex. But what I did is that I used planning mode, right? So if you open your cursor, you go in plan, and then you basically explain what you're trying to achieve. And what I did from the first iterations is just create a basic plugin structure, like nothing special, just React on the front end, and then some back end, some basic admin page in backend, then there's some REST API endpoints, nothing special. So it did pretty well. It's actually created this initial structure, right, of a plugin, and but then I started to add all these features and functionality, and this is where I started to encounter problems, right? So first, there was a lot of errors, so I had to debug, I had to reprompt again and again, but then when it started to work, so I started to get some results, right? So if we will go in Tools, Redirects Cleanup, so this is a basic admin page where basically we have a button, and then if user clicks this button, so as you can see, it's loading really, really slow here, even in my local installation. Probably because I'm also using Xdebug here. And the database is just huge. So what I did is that I replicated client's database on my local machine just to imitate what is their site is all about. And then I start running this test. I start scanning all the posts and then running, but it was extremely slow. So then I started to debug more. I started to ask more. I started to use debug mode, right, in cursor, and started to ask that, can we analyze, can we identify which part exactly is slow, right? So, and then it started to add all these like a breakpoints, right? Like a profiler statements, basically like it started to add this when the function execution starts and then when it ends. And then we identify, right, together with the cursor debug, we identified that the most slow function was actually fetching all the posts, right, all the post content, and then looping through all this post content, because we have so many posts on this website. We have like a 6,000 posts, I think, and then we were like getting all the content and then searching inside in this content using MySQL, right, using SQL. So then I realized, so we have to change it, right? So we started to have a conversation, right, with the cursor, and then so we tried the approach where we search instead of SQL, we actually search in PHP instead, right, using just regular expressions, right? So this way we and because the post content is not indexed, right, in WordPress, so it's not indexed, and it can be really, really big, it can be huge. That's why it was so slow. It was performing all these searches through the database over and over again. So for example, if we have one redirect link, it would search it like 50 times, you know, in the whole table, and it would just scan all the post content. It can be really heavy and really slow. That's why the script was so sluggish, so slow. So after that, we rewrite it with the simple, SQL statement, where we just get all the post content, right, and then we store it in memory, right, basically in PHP, and then we are parsing through this post content already directly in PHP. So there's some regex logic here, so like regular expression that can search all these links, and then it will remove them. And the speed was, the result was amazing, you know, the speed increased like 20 times almost. So let me just show you, like open my CLI here and just run it for 100 URLs. So it will basically scan through all URLs, and will loop all the posts, and let's see how actually fast is this. So in my last test it was like 5 seconds. Yeah, this time it took like 13 seconds. So I guess we can rerun it again. Also, when we run it, it's actually caching it in the transient, I think, so next time it runs a little bit faster. So the result is pretty crazy, right? I think that maybe because I'm recording right now, it's actually a little bit slower because I'm using some RAM. So basically, what is the conclusion is that this helped me, right, to understand this problem, this prompting, right, helped me understand the problem. Where is the bottleneck? I was able to identify and fix this bottleneck and make it way, way faster. So let's try to go in admin and see also how the scanning worked. So this also took like around 20 seconds before, and now it's should be around like 5 or 10 seconds, I think. So again, it may be running slow because of my recording here, but in my test, it's really, really fast. And so what I learned from that, so always use planning first, so that AI will not mess this thing, your code. And then if you stuck on something, try to use debug, and then identify where is the bottleneck, where is the actual, where the code actually is slower, right? You can also use, I guess, native like PHP testings, right, like Xdebug for that. That's what I've been using. It's also works really well, but sometimes this debugging just much faster. You know, you can just quickly the AI can quickly spit all this code, and then like you can test it fast, and then it will identify if this is improved or not. So I was able, like, really to get almost 20 times improvement in speed, for example, for a large number of data. That's just insane. That's a huge saving. The downside of this, that we have to use more PHP memory, so we have to have limit at least 512 for a large for large data, right? So in this case, we have like 6,000 homepage redirects and 6,000 posts. So that's a lot of stuff. So it's basically, we are testing this edge case where the website will have like a lot of stuff, a lot of content, a lot of redirects, and it's still performing really well, even with 512 MB of memory. So, and the way that we achieve it is identify bottleneck that it was in our query. Then we basically delegate it to PHP instead, to search, right? Because query searching in post content would become very expensive. So we identified that, and then we were able to optimize the speed and improve the performance. Another thing that Cursor here helped me to to achieve is that in our admin we are actually using batch processing. So it's processing by batch, right? So it's splitting the post into separated chunks and processing it like one by one. And then, so first of all, it helped me to also organize and structure all this, like structure of my plugin, right? Where created these multiple classes, right? Where we need to put like REST API logic, where we need to put our redirects processor logic, where is our CLI logic. So, but of course, I was just guiding it like all the time along the way. But it's still like super extremely like helpful. And in my latest test, I was actually using this Opus model, which is a little bit expensive, but it performs sometimes really well. Sometimes it's also making mistakes though, so we have to like always recheck and see how it works. So the original slow code was actually generated by Opus, even if it's that smart. But then I was able to debug it and to improve again with Opus in debug mode to improve the performance almost like 10 or 20 times. And then it helped me to write this, to separate the logic into basically that we can pre-filter that which post has URLs, and then we can save them in a transient, so we can store them for later cache. So we just basically cache it so that we can process next batch instantly almost, because all the post IDs are cached. So that was another thing that was really, really helpful with the help of this AI prompting. So let me just find it. It's right here. Yeah. So this function was also running like really, really slow before. So what we did is that we created here a transient, and then we just basically store here. We store all the posts with URLs. We store them. We store IDs of these posts, right? Because like it would be very heavy to store all the content. So we store only IDs in a transient. And then, so if we still have this transient in our database, we don't need to rerun all of this. But if we don't have it, we just basically query again, but this time we pass these IDs that we get from our transient, right? We get these IDs and pass them into our SQL query. So this way it's also much faster, because we only query in IDs which are indexed, right? So that's it for this like quick video. So just wanted to share this experience like working with Cursor with LLMs recently. It's been really, really helpful. So honestly, it's just improving and like elevating your skills if you know what you're doing, and if you know what questions to ask and how to prompt and how to debug. It's been like really, really helpful, and it can basically help you to understand concepts like it's like some like algorithms even, and then like where these bottlenecks, memory, where's the slow points of your application. So just keep in mind this. Don't try to ignore AI, use it as a tool, right? Try to read all the code it's producing and then try to understand, analyze how it works, and try to always don't afraid just like to ask question. If you don't understand something, just reprompt again and ask that, do we really need this, do we really need that? Because once, for example, it offered, when I wanted to rewrite my controller, I think it offered to store all the post content in a transient, which would be like crazy expensive. So I forgot which portion exactly, but I think, yeah, it's actually in the processor here. Yeah, like this post, it's actually, it offered to store them in a transient together with post content. So this would be like super heavy and sometimes crash your application. So sometimes AI is making mistakes. So always reprompt, always try to analyze. And sometimes I had to roll back and basically start over again. So for this, it's very useful if you are using Git, right? So you could also so just like make sure that you commit your changes, and then you can also they have this like recover breakpoint feature, right? You could also roll back the changes if you don't like. So just try to implement feature by feature, layer by layer, and see if it works, and always test and test. And if something doesn't work, simply just like reprompt again or try again, and then keep moving. So that's it for this video, guys. So I hope you found it helpful. Let me know in the comments if you like to see more of this. And until next time, bye-bye.